Yeah, okay, so I'll start. The Westport Library is proud to present Oh Brother, Not Another podcast, an official Apple podcast with me, Miggs Burrows.
And I'm Trace Burrows. And today on the show, we have Chris Jagger, who's a musician. He has like a dozen albums out. He's done all kinds of different things in his career, like journalist, actor, designed clothes, and designed a guitar, a very innovative kind of guitar. And he's also the brother of Mick Jagger, the singer of the Rolling Stones.
Who?
Sorry. You've heard about him. So Chris, what is the age difference between you and Mick?
124 years.
And he looks it.
Age is just a number.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. He's older than me, put it like that.
Yeah. My son was born on his birthday, July 26th, actually. So the name
Your son was born on it. Well, everyone's born on their birthday.
Yeah, it's true. But we were born on Mick's birthday, and yours is close to when is yours? Yours is
just before Christmas.
Yeah, right, December. So
yeah.
Anyway,
well, I was born on the 19th of December, and my wife Kari-Ann was born on the 17th of December in the same year.
Wow!
So we're kind of like almost the same age.
So you've got a book out, Talking to Myself. I was able to look at a few of the pages that they show on Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
And it was an interesting description. I really felt I was there.
The wartime.
During the war, right? I mean, Mick was around when they were still dropping bombs, and then you were born a few years later, but it was still like the end of the war, right?
Well, no, he was born during the war. I was born in 1947, which is 2 years after it finished. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, we grew up in the 1950s, yeah, and sort of similar time. Yeah, so I'd sort of take I take a little trip on that, what it's like growing up in in those post-war years. I mean, I suppose over there in the US, it would have been the Cold War and all that jazz.
Well, I'm 1 year older than you, so yeah, I'm too young to remember, but it was just the war just ended when I was born.
Yeah. But there's a bit of a description of all that jazz, because where I was brought up was quite industrial, so that was quite a heavily bombed area because they used to make weapons and armaments around Dartford. It was, where I was brought up in Kent, it was there's a lot of engineering went on there, and so they made a lot of stuff. My uncle works at Woolwich Arsenal, which was like on one-off torpedoes and stuff like that. So there was, I mean, the war had ended, but I mean, it had been such a big event that it cast quite a long shadow, which wasn't really, which didn't really kind of lift. I mean, that was the thing about the 1960s. It's not just that it was kind of so different. It was what it was coming out of, because the 1950s there's quite a lot of austerity. Whereas in the US you had you had fridges and all that, refrigerators, and you had TVs. In the UK, I mean, that was like you had to be reasonably well off to have. Most people didn't have a phone or a refrigerator or a television or a car. Yeah. So it was quite an austere sort of. There was rationing. There, I was born in 47, and I had a ration book for a couple more years. We were on rationing because there was a lot of shortage of stuff. But I mean, it didn't really affect us. We had a great childhood. It was a very happy childhood. And, I had great parents. So there's not, my book has not been that popular with some reviewers because, I haven't got reports of an abusive alcoholic father and, living through tremendous trauma and all that stuff, which is what a lot of books popularly trade on, as you might know. So, I mean, we had a really kind of uneventful sort of childhood. And my father was great. My mother was very wonderful. My father never even raised his voice. He never even shouted. There was no kind of hitting or stuff like that. I don't think, it may have been whacked once or twice, but I can't even remember it. So from that point of view, we were very fortunate,
Yeah,
So,
I would say, yeah. Oh, you did it. There's a nice tribute video about your dad, Joe, right? Who died several years ago. It's a really beautiful tribute with scrapbook pictures and everything. What did he do for a living? How did he earn? How did he support the family?
Well, he was initially a teacher, and then before the war, he was taught in schools, and then after the war, he took a sort of mature course and he became a PE teacher, and then he worked in the field of physical education, and he was a lecturer, professor. And he ended up, working quite a bit in the US, where he kind of preferred it because he got more. They accorded him more. They called him professor, and he would have liked to have gone abroad and lived, emigrated really. But my mother didn't want to do that, and he would have made more money, and he would have had more prestige because he had some good ideas. And so he was in education. And so, I guess if you're in education, you show the way forward with your kids because you understand about what's involved. I'm involved now. I got 14 grandchildren, and I'm trying to sort of help educate them. So it's quite a, it's sort of rather a never-ending process because you realize it's a lot of work, and but it's very rewarding. And he would have liked myself or my brother really to have been a teacher. That would have been fulfillment. But in some ways you do end up sort of like taking those philosophical teaching elements. I've been through some schools, with music and stuff, talking to students about music and their attitude and what they're going to do and what's worthwhile and what's not worthwhile, and that's interesting. So in a way, you still, and when I'm writing a book, you look back and you think, well, where did you pick up all this stuff? It was interesting really looking back on my life with this book, which is a good thing for anyone to do. And I realized that I really didn't have hardly any formal education. I had an education, but it was like on the hoof, as it were.
Yeah.
I got it off a lot of people. I got it off a lot of different areas, and I learned as I went along. And so that's how it kind of was.
Now, the book is called Talking to Myself, and I love the book cover, but you're not talking to yourself, you're talking to a dog, actually. It looks like you're talking to a dog. And in some of your videos, there's sheep and animals. Do you have a farm? You're obviously into animals.
I got a few acres here, yeah, and you got a few acres. You need a few sheep as lawn mowers and a few chickens to lay some eggs and a dog to catch the rats and stuff like that.
Yeah. So is that your dog, or was that a setup by the photographer? Is that your little pup in the picture?
What does it look like?
Well, it looks like he's looking at you, so like with such love. Yeah.
HMV. His master's voice.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. His master's voice. Right.
So how did so your uncle Cyril, is that how you pronounce his name? He had a lot of influence in you, right?
Horace. Yeah, my mother had 4 brothers. Yeah, so I had 4 uncles from my mother's side. Horace it was. Yeah, they were. What about them?
I was going to say, I read some part where it said he bought some records for you and a little player and introduced you to some music. Do you think that's where you and even Mick got into music? Because no one in your family is a musician, right? Other than your brother. Right?
No, most people assume that, a lot of people have, like, their father or mother was a musician, they had piano at home, and they had all these educational opportunities. That didn't exist back in the day. Or we didn't even have a record player. There was a radio. I mean, if you can imagine now, when you got Spotify and you can dial up any number, imagine what it was like in the old days. When people, in the era that we grew up in, it was sheet music. I mean, not that we read it or that, but you went down to the music store, and if you were interested in a certain tune, you bought the sheet music.
Yeah, that's right. You couldn't hear it. But the Beatles, like Liverpool groups said the ships would come in and bring 45s from the United States. That's how they learned about the blues. Where did you have access to any? Was there any U.S. music in your early life that you knew about?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, well, that's the advantage of having an elder brother. They're kind of that much further down the road, aren't they? So they kind of, you cotton onto their, you hang on their shirt tails and you find out stuff. So, I mean, I was like 13 years old and I was listening to Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf, which my contemporaries were like, were listening. Because back in the day, what used to happen is Elvis Presley or someone in the US would record their next single, and then it would be copied by an English artist and then pushed out really fast, so that they had the kind of shadow kind of people over in the UK. So I mean, the UK pop scene was kind of rather diluted. There was one guy called Lonnie Donegan who was quite an interesting guy. He was actually Irish, who had and he grew up alongside someone called Chris Barber, who was a jazz kind of guy. And when I say jazz, we're not talking about bebop here. We're talking about kind of trad jazz. They'd learned trad during the war and after the war. The thing, and before my brother's band, these guys came off, all the blues guys, the flavor was trad jazz. And from that point of view, we were quite a long way behind the US. And it was a kind of rather old-fashioned trad jazz, and it was a bit boring. We didn't really like it. I mean, I quite like it now, but there was a guy, because that harked back to another era, the trad jazz, Louis Armstrong and all that stuff. But there was a guy who started putting stuff together, which was like skiffle, which he did in the middle of in the break in the kind of jazz thing. He came along and started doing like hillbilly songs. He famously had a hit with Rock Island Line.
Oh, yeah, Rock Island Line.
Which was a hit in the US, amazing. And this guy was Lonnie Donegan, and he was sort of Irish. And he, he worked with a banjo player and a washboard. It was like, that was the first music that sort of came along before the blues. And then my brother had skiffle. You had a string bass, like a kind of T-chest bass, a guitar, washboard, whatever, and you did it at home. You needed 3 chords, and you was away. It wasn't sophisticated, but nobody cared. And the great thing about all this music stuff is, hey, man, you really don't need a lot of practice and education. You just need to be, enthusiasm is the kind of the key to it all. And I say this to people, now, I mean, the nice thing about sort of pop music or, the folk music, you could say, is you don't need to be that fantastic at it. But you've got to have something, you got to have a nice voice, or, you've got to have enthusiasm, you've got to pick the right songs. And you're away. It's not like playing Bach, where you've got to, learn all these endless scales and all this crap. So, that kind of music is democratic. So, that's what happened. That was the first kind of wave that happened before blues. And then people started, playing some 12-bar blues, which again, you don't have to be that sophisticated to play a 12-bar blues. You can follow that pretty easy. And and then everyone started having blues bands. And I was really just a spectator on the scene for years and years and years. I never really played any music, not really till I was like 20. I didn't really have a proper guitar till I was 21.
Hmm.
But I figured that I'd listened to a hell of a lot of music. And you know what? That listening to music is very educational, because it kind of soaks in. It's all very well to just start playing it. I mean, there's a lot of people now that they can play really flash stuff and a certain genre, and then you mention somebody they've never heard of them. They haven't really got a musical education because they feel they don't really need to. But a musical education is a great thing, and that's what I kind of got via my brother. And from that period, I got a great musical education. We listened to the blues. I listened to Charlie Mingus. I listened to, and then we listened to jazz when it came out, Miles Davis and Coltrane and that when we was at school, all those great stuff. And we did listen to sort of J.S. Bach, and I listened to Indian music, and then I listened to a lot of world music.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a very kind of eclectic kind of musical education, which I obviously wouldn't have had I not had a brother like that. So, those are the sort of advantages you get from having an older brother.
Well, there's a video, I just want to draw people's attention, the video which shows off your talent, your musical talent, and people are going to ask naturally, well, does he talk to Mick? Do they like each other? Blah, blah, blah. Well, if you look at this video, which has anyone seen my heart, it's actually, it's a duet, or, I mean, it's a collaboration with Mick. I mean, you're both in the video, and the horns, who are the horns in that? The great horn players in that video.
Yeah, we got some nice for that Mix Up the Medicine. That's the last thing we did. We did all that right before lockdown. And there's a couple of horn players that lived there up in South London, Nick Payne and Frank Mead, who played with Charlie. They played with Gary Moore, and Bill Wyman had a band that they played with, and they play sort of sessions and stuff. Like, they're very accomplished players. And we pushed the boat out on that. It's a bit more jazzy. It's got a few. Yeah, me and Charlie worked hard on that album with the arrangements, so which was fun. And so we kind of extended some of those songs. I feel that quite a lot of songs now. I like, I'll listen to Frank Sinatra, a lot of stuff, and those great songs, and the way they develop those songs, there's an intro, then it comes up, you got a verse, it's repeated, then you got the chorus, you got the hook lines, and then where do you go? You got an instrumental, and then maybe there's a bit of a turnaround, something interesting, or there's something you're not expecting. And we worked kind of hard on that, because I do kind of listen to modern music, and you listen to it. Yeah, okay, I got the picture. That's the hook line. You repeat it. And what else you got? And a lot of it is, well, there's nothing else. That's it.
Yeah.
It don't go nowhere. It's just repetitive, And, we really enjoyed that. There's one tune that we recorded. It's called "A Love Like This," and I was singing live on it. And the thing, I just was saying, okay, let's go to another middle eight, and I wrote another sort of thing for that, and then lyrically to extend the idea, because you come up with a lyrical idea, that's fine, but how do you extend it? What are your Here's my wife is coming along.
Are you coming to say hello?
Hello?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, let's say hello.
Come and say hello, Kari-Ann. Come here.
Who is it?
Come here.
Please.
We want to meet you.
No, can I come here?
Can't see you. Can't see you.
Go closer. Get closer.
No, closer. Yeah.
Don't be shy. Come on.
Yeah.
There she is. There's Kari-Ann.
So you guys have 5 kids together? How many? All girls or boys? What's the mix?
We've got we've got 14 grandchildren.
Oh,
That's
5
amazing.
boys. 5 boys.
oh,
Sorry, I'm eating some chocolate.
that's okay.
5 boys, 14 grandchildren.
That's 14 grandchildren. Wow.
That's a lot of birthdays to remember. Talking about birthdays.
2 dogs, 14 sheep, 12 chickens, 3 cats,
And a partridge in a pear
2
tree.
goldfish.
Goldfish.
There's
You
quite
got-
a lot.
So
We've got. Well,
that's great. So yeah, it's just for your own. I mean, you don't have a commercial farm or anything. You just you shear the sheep and you make sweaters out of the sheep.
No,
or-
it costs money.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
no, the sheep.
The sheep are just pets.
No, they're just
You're not allowed to eat them.
they're lawnmowers.
You
Move
don't
on.
have names, the sheep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Alfie, we've got Stomper, we've got
Naughty boy.
Stomper, Naughty Boy,
How did he get that name?
Name also. Go ahead.
because he always used to come up behind you and give you a bit of a
That's pretty funny.
yeah. Anyway, I'm hanging out the washing at the moment, and the dogs are waiting for their dinner.
Okay.
And he'll be
Nice meeting you.
Where do you live? What part of you're north of London, or whereabouts do you live?
We're in Somerset.
Oh, Somerset. Okay.
Southwest. We're
we-
south of Bristol, if you know where that is.
Where are you?
We're in Connecticut, outside New York City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's an agency, are you? No.
No.
Are you an agency?
No, it's a podcast.
Oh, it's a podcast.
All right, see you in a bit.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, bye, bye.
Nice talking to you. So,
Did you want to play anything, by the way? I mean,
yeah, right. Do you feel like playing a song?
do you have
Oh,
anything?
me?
Yeah. Do you have anything new you want to audition here? I mean, not an audition. Maybe you'll get the
I
job.
ain't got any. I forgot about that.
Oh,
You'll have to
okay.
play a record or something.
No, that's all right. Well, no, we plugged your videos. The other video, what is it called? Mudgley Time. What is Mudgley Time? I saw the video.
Well-
It's a good video, but
Well, I live in Mudgley, and it's a spoof on, as you know, Tulsa Time, and that was a sort of lockdown song I had. I recorded it here in my barn, but it was a bit of a mess, and it took me a long time to sort of sort it out, and then it took me a long time to put all those pictures together,
yeah.
and I've only just done it. So, I live a couple of doors down from the cider maker, Roger Wilkins. So I just put that together and put it out the other few days ago. So and John Porter did that for me as well. Who he also produced the record. If you know John Porter, do you know who he is?
I'm not familiar.
No,
What?
not familiar with him. Is he a producer?
Well, he was John. I've known him a long time. He was from the Northeast. He used to play bass with. He went to the same art school as Brian Ferry,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then he played bass with Roxy Music, and he produced some of their records. In fact, he was doing a Brian Ferry record when I sort of got hold of him to do this last one. But I mean, he'd done a lot of producing over here with the Smiths and a whole dozens and dozens of bands, and then he went over to the West Coast. He did this album with Buddy Guy called Damn Right I Got the Blues, which was Buddy's kind of comeback album, and he's done dozens and dozens of blues records over there, and then he moved to New Orleans. He did quite a lot of records in New Orleans with a load of guys, and he's moved back over here finally after all these years. And his wife is someone called Linda Keith, that I've known for a long time from when she went out with Keith Richards, and she was famous for bringing Jimi Hendrix over to UK.
No,
Right. I've heard that story. Yeah.
it's great. Yeah.
She took Jimi Hendrix to Seymour Stein, who turned him down.
Yeah,
If you know about the record business.
yeah, that's crazy. Well, have you been to the States? Have you performed here or come to the
Not
States?
for a long time.
Wow.
I'm saving up my shekels to come over because, well, I was quoted like 10 grand to get a visa. I can maybe get it a little bit cheaper, but to come and work over there, I need a visa. And it's like a 48-page document that you've got to fill in, and lawyers have got to do it, and you've got to have everything set up ahead of time. And I mean, I'm playing next month in Australia, and you need a visa for there. But I mean, it's, you know, you can get someone. I got a friend over there who did it with the authorities, and it's not so complicated. It's quite complicated. You've got to have all these clearances, all these ladders, all these police things, birth certificates, blah, blah, blah. But you can do it yourself. In the US, you can't do it yourself. You've got to have an attorney to do it. And that costs money.
Yeah.
So this is the prohibitive thing about coming to America legally. Anyway, I mean, they don't really want you to come unless, if you're a big act, of course, it's not a big deal, you know. Yeah. But I mean, I feel it's a shame. I mean, not only affects musicians, but also universities and, you know, quite a lot of people. You know, it's a restriction of trade.
It is, and culture
by a kind of stealth. And I think it's a real shame, because if you're a little old Scottish folk singer that someone wants to have in a, you know, to perform at their nice folksy kind of, you know, Midwest folk festival, I mean, it's almost, you're making it impossible for this cultural exchange to happen.
Yeah. Well,
whereas I can go to Canada, that's easy.
Like
I mean, we played at the Montreal Jazz Festival, and I said, "Well, do you need a visa?" They said, "No. When you arrive in Montreal, you go there and you just say, I'm come to play in the Montreal Jazz Fest." And we went there, and they said, "Well, it's worth $11 million for the city of Montreal. So if you're going to hassle people about visas, you're not going to have a great festival." But unfortunately, they don't see it that way in the US. And of course, I mean, in the old days when I first came over, we did it with the MU. They had an exchange thing. The American MU and the British MU, there was a quid pro quo. And that's how they worked it. And you had to pay some money to the union. And it was, you know, you had to get your ticket and all that. Fine. You had to be in the union and all that. But that's long since gone. So, I mean, unfortunately. And I'd like to come over, you know, when I can make it. But, you know, it's a lot of money to find before you've even made a buck, you know.
I didn't know it's that difficult. I never knew that, because we can just go right to England with a plane ticket. I mean, but if we want to work, I mean, I went there in the 70s. Miggs went there. We went there a bunch of times. And I went there on like a plane, you know, and then I got off and looked for a job. And then sometimes you want to wash dishes in our restaurant. And
that was probably illegal.
Probably.
No, Americans can come to Europe and stuff. It's pretty easy. I mean, it's now easier for Americans to go to Europe than it is for us after Brexit.
Wow.
Yeah, that's too bad.
That's a shame.
So that's another fuck up.
Yeah.
So Trace, do you have a last? We're sort of almost out of our 30 minutes.
I do. So in one of your interviews, you described your relationship with Mick as a two-way street. What do you mean by that?
Did I?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, we're somewhere along the line.
It's in Wikipedia. It's in the Wikipedia. You have a Wikipedia entry if you look at that.
Well, you know, it's a sort of, you know, it's great having family and all that and relationships like that, but you got to work on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, no matter who you are, you can't have someone work on it for you.
Right. No, like a marriage. I mean, it takes work, but you have a video called "Hey Brother," which addresses your relationship with Mick, you know, and you know,
yeah,
it's kind of interesting. It's a
yeah, because it's been quite hard for me because I got to share him with all these millions of fans.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's all quite time consuming.
Sure.
So even though he's quite, you know, I mean, he's not available like I am. I mean, even I'm busy, but he's busy. He's got so many things he's doing all the time. So, and he's got a lot of children. So do I. But you know, the thing is, it's quite special what you have. You grow up together. You have the same parents. You've got a lot of things in common. So Okay, fair enough. I mean, that's one reason I asked him to come play and do stuff with me on records, because that's an opportunity to get together, you know.
Oh, right. Yeah, there was a line in the video or in the song, "Hey brother, have you got a minute to spend?" Which I guess sums up kind of what you're just saying. Yeah.
Fair, I think it is.
Yeah. Yeah. To spare.
Yeah.
You have a minute to spare, right?
That's my slightly sarcastic.
Yeah. Any comment from Mick about it? Did he
Did he hear it?
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, who's that about then?" But it's all, yeah, it's true what you say. But the thing is, quite a few people have said to me, because when you describe relationships and things that are personal to you, that, yeah, sure, there's personal to you, but it's quite common for other people. And people have said, listen, I got a brother and it's the same thing. I got the same situation with him. You know, I mean, I did that thing about my father and my relationship with my father, and people come up to me, and one time after I played that song, and they said, "Oh, my father died just recently, and that really reminded me of him," and all the little things. So, I mean, you're opening up common ground. You know, this is, yeah, okay, yeah, it's about me and my brother, but I mean, a lot of other people got brothers and sisters and whatever. So it's common to everybody, you know, what can be. What?
I said, preach. You know,
I mean, we're brothers, and actually we don't live very close, and our opportunities, you know, it's a different situation, but you know, the podcast is a way for us to get.
Well, that's great. Well, there you go. Well, I know. That's it, isn't it? Well, I mean, families are funny things, aren't they? You know, like, yeah. You know, I mean, a lot of people never even see their brother or sister, or, you know, they're either too far away, or they don't get on with them, or, you know, something like that. But I mean, of course, it's a nice thing having. I mean, someone asked my brother about it, and he said, "Well, it's great because, you know, it's great for him because I play music too. I mean, if I was in marine insurance, I don't know, perhaps we wouldn't have so much. I might make more money, but we wouldn't have so much to talk about."
Sure, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, gee, thank you so much.
Is that it?
Well, if you can go if you have anything you want to talk about or mention.
Project.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice that you mentioned about coming over to the US, because that's something I really want to do. I want to come over and sort of do a tour and play. And I figure there's quite a lot of people that I may have known from years ago, and some new people, and that me and Charlie Hart would like to come over and maybe link up with a few American musicians. And, you know, I do some reading from my book, and then we play some stuff, take some questions. It's a kind of interesting way to do it, because sometimes I read a bit, you know, we play some tunes and I read a bit from my book. I say, well, that's enough. Do you want me to read more? And they say, yeah, read some more. Right. And I go, that's enough of that. You know, let's play a few tunes. So, you know, there's a kind of interesting, intimate way to do it. And I very much want to come over to the US to meet up to people. And I know how, because all the music that I'm playing and stuff is people are going to appreciate it over there. You know, they don't appreciate it everywhere, particularly not in my country, but in America, they will appreciate you know, our music, because it's very much Americana, and some of those jazzy things that all came from there. Obviously, we've got a little bit of an English twist maybe on them. And I haven't been over since the 90s, when we played a few gigs over there with a band, which was great fun. I mean, the hard thing is just to turn it around and make enough money to pay for it.
Well, maybe maybe this podcast, we get it out there and bring it to people's attention. Maybe somebody will pick up the tab or want to bring you over, you know.
Well, what you kind of need is somebody saying, I have a festival in, you know, Yang Wai Fong Yong Chang, and I'd really like to get Chris Jagger over, and I can put up $10,000 for him to pay a couple of gigs here.
Yeah.
And so you need, you know, how you sort of have to book gigs is you need one or two kind of anchor points.
Right. Yeah.
And then once you've got that, and then that's a good start, and then you can fill in the gigs. And I mean, I know quite a lot of people, obviously out in California, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Texas. I got a lot of friends. The East Coast, I got friends in New York, Connecticut. I mean, I'm not so good in Kansas.
Neither are we.
Yeah.
We're not very popular in Kansas either.
I was telling someone the other day, I went to Prague, and I was playing in Prague, and this guy is a big fan of music, and he wanted to do Kansas City. So then he was doing this song called Kansas City. I said, well, why do you want to do Kansas City for? It's kind of very old tune. And anyway, I said, well, do you know why Kansas City was this? They don't know the story. I said, but there's this guy called Prendergast, who was the mayor, who didn't give a shit about the prohibition. And he opened the whole place up, and all the musicians were going, because they didn't have a gig, because there was nowhere to play because of prohibition. It really screwed up the musicians.
Right.
And then they said, well, you want to go to Kansas City because there's a gig there. Because, I mean, why on earth would you want to go? It was a cow town.
Yeah.
It's where they drove the cows up, and it was on the railhead, Kansas City, here I come. Well, why the hell do you want to go to Kansas City? And this guy had no idea that was the story. He'd never been to Kansas City. So, I mean, that's the history of America. I mean, it's quite interesting. You mentioned my father, you started out. And my father originally, he learned history. And so me and my brother are quite good history buffs. And so one of the more useful things I learned in school, we did American history. We did the Constitution. We did the states' rights and all that stuff, the Civil War and all that.
You probably know more than most Americans, honestly.
Yeah, I think you do.
So, that was kind of quite useful because it's contemporary history. And if you want to go to America, you've got to understand about America a little bit. And all that stuff helps you understand the history of America. And I mean, the blues music and all that music, I mean, that's the history of America. That is what happened. It's all written in the music. So it's, it's a good education. I mean, America wasn't about, Bach and Beethoven. It was about B.B. King and, all that stuff. So
John Hammond, yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in my book about that. So, and also in the book, I did try it. One of the things I did have to do slightly in the book was I've worked with quite a lot of musicians, but they're not that big name musicians. So I wanted to pay some kind of tribute to guys who have played with bands, who have brought a lot of music, enabled a lot of music to happen, that have never really been well known. And you mentioned someone, a drummer or a bass player, you can't just say their name, it means nothing. So then you've got to just talk about them a little bit, because these guys are the unsung people. They never made a lot of money out of music. They never made a big, success, because they were kind of sidemen. They were talented. It was the funny thing about music. Some people did very, very well and made a lot of money. A lot of other people made no money at all, and their names are really kind of forgotten. And I sought to slightly address that thing in my book. So it's a little bit about the other people who have played music. And if you're a student and you're interested in contemporary music and that, there's a lot of stuff in my book about it, because someone said, well, who's going to be interested in this book? I said, well, anyone who likes music, because there's a lot of stuff about, different people I've met. And apart from famous people, of course, obviously you can name drop, but that's kind of gets a bit boring. So I hope you enjoyed the book. Maybe you can get a copy of it. And
yeah, we tried to order before, like a week before, and it said it was going to take 3 weeks to get there. So
3 weeks.
Yeah, when I ordered on Amazon, I think it comes from the UK. It doesn't come, they don't stock it in America, so they have to ship it from the UK.
I'll have a word with Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, please. Please, because I really, we left time to get it. We figured Amazon and we get it the next day, and it said 3 weeks delivery. So anyway, we appreciate the little.
That's bad.
Yeah. But
That's interesting. Well, thank you for your time and everything. Good luck with your podcast.
Thank you very much.
You're coming up.
Take care.
Bye.